before we meet Hadiya, I wanted to set up the next section of the conversation. So I personally have spent most of my time in the startup and tech space working on systemic solutions. So I developed an accelerator, and now I'm working to, like I said, educate and enable a more diverse pool of investors to step in and have a seat at the table. And the reason that I think systemic change is so engaging for me personally is because it can be really rewarding to support like one person or a specific community. And I think at that level of support and solutions is critical. But systemic solutions have the benefit of creating longer term sustainable changes. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Hadiya Roderique, who's going to talk to us a little bit about systemic racism in the workplace. Hi, Hadiya.
Hi.
Hi. I want to just I always want to double check that I'm pronouncing both of your names correctly. Did I get it?
Hadiya Roderique.
Okay. I added like a little accent to the end of your name. I apologize.
That happens a
lot. Thank you so much for being here, and would love to give you just a moment or an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you're doing.
Sure. I am a recovering lawyer, a speaker, broadcast commentator, and a journalist. I write about a number of issues, particular things related to race and gender. I'm best known for a piece I wrote a couple of years ago that was on the cover of the Globe and Mail in 2017 called Black on Bay Street, which talked about my experiences as a young Black woman in a large Bay Street law firm. I left the law to go back to school and ended up doing a PhD in organizational behavior at the Rotman School of Management, where I focused on gender and parenthood in workplace relationships. And little known fact, I am an international Frisbee player. So I represented Canada on several occasions on the national team for Ultimate Frisbee.
That's awesome.
Like the thing I'm actually the most proud of.
Yeah, I can tell. PhD, whatever. Well, great. Why don't we just dive right in? What are some of the systemic issues that make the workplace inequitable from your perspective and also from your experience? I mean, you wrote that article. I think that can really inform this part.
Yeah. Well, I think there's bias, and the bias that shows up in two sort of major ways. Bias in the systems and processes that we have, or bias that is allowed to be replicated and allowed to happen through the processes and systems that we have. And then you have your sort of day-to-day interactions and microaggressions that are a product of systemic racism in our society. So when it comes to the former, research has shown the presence of bias. I'd say at this point, it's pretty undeniable. We see it in hiring, we see it in evaluation, we see it in promotion. And for anyone to, taking my own field of the law, if you look at the top of most Bay Street law firms, there's a lot of men, a lot of white men, and there's, a couple women and a couple people of color. And graduation rates from law school have been pretty much 50-50 for the past 20 years. So for you to think that upper class is reflective of the best talent we have in our society, in our law schools, would mean that you think that men are smarter than women. It would mean that you think man 6, 7, and 8 are stronger, more qualified than women 3, 4, and 5. And that's just actually statistically impossible. There's research that we've had going back almost 20 years that shows if you have a Black name on your resume with the exact same resume, your chances of getting called back are 40% less. So if your name is Jamal Jones versus Chad Jones, Chad will get that call back, a bunch more times than Jamal was. And for Jamal to get the same number of callbacks as Chad, Jamal has to have 8 more years of experience. Yeah. And we see this in hiring. We see this in evaluations. There's studies that have shown the same memo just with a different name on the top, and the one with the whiter name will get like a 84 out of 100, and the one with the Black name will get a 62 for the same memo. So it's certain groups, BIPOC groups in particular, are stereotyped as less competent and often have to prove themselves repeatedly, where others get the benefit of the doubt. And one thing I want to make very clear to people is, Black people are not asking to be hired because they're Black. We're asking you to stop not hiring us because we're Black. Stop dismissing us, stop assuming we are less competent and able. All we actually want is a meritocracy. All we want is to be treated like everybody else, but that's not currently the case.
Yeah, actually, just on that note, I hear a lot, especially in the kind of venture funding ecosystem. There's a lot of talk about pipeline issues. Well, like, do you hear that? Have you done any?
I hear that
the pipeline problem, and kind of blaming the lack of talent in the small talent pool, blaming that as the preventative measure, like the prevention of. Sorry.
Well, I have two comebacks, I guess.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're going to blame the pipeline, what are you doing to improve the pipeline? How many scholarships are you giving to Black high school students to encourage them to go into tech? How many camps or workshops do you have that exposes young people who don't get that opportunity to your work? How many relationships are you fostering to build that pipeline? Are you going into schools of kids in grade 7 and grade 8 and introducing them to tech, introducing them to your work, so that they get excited, so that that pipeline develops? And secondly, I would say the pipeline is there. You're just not looking for it. So I'll take the example of the orchestra. So up until about the 70s, the orchestra was about 5% women and 95% men. And since the 70s, it's now, I think, about 25% women, because the hiring's been 50-50, but we still have those years of, complete maleness to eventually grow out of. And so what happened? Think about the pipeline issues. Did a bunch of women start playing music? Did they start going to schools and giving women instruments? Did the sexist evaluation people retire or die? No, what happened was they put down a screen and they put down a carpet. And so now they had to put down the carpet, because if you're a woman, your heels on the wood floor would give you away. And so now you were being evaluated by the only thing that should matter, and that does matter, is the music, your ability to play music. And all of a sudden, their classes were 50-50 because the women were always there. It's just that bias was not letting them be seen. And so I would say that the people are out there, but they're not getting the same opportunities or not being recognized in the same way. And the research tells us that, you send those two resumes and the Black resume is not getting as much attention.
This is a really fantastic analogy or story. And so what, from your perspective, what is actually getting in the way of addressing these systemic issues? Like what, if it's not actually pipeline, what is it?
Well, I think it's just the lingering anti-Black and other racism that we have in our society. It's going to infect everything that we do. But I think a lot of people, fear is a big part of it. Yeah. I think a lot of companies, a lot of people, they don't want to be the first to shift or do anything different, even though, we're in tech, we're supposed to be innovative. But sometimes I think there's still a lot of fear when it comes to some of the more entrenched processes. I think it's also hard. People don't want to criticize the process that got them to where they are, because then they might have to confront the thought that maybe they didn't deserve that promotion over someone else, or, Mary actually, or Mariah's numbers were better than yours, but you got that promotion, and, did you really deserve it? It's hard to criticize a system that's given you a lot of success. You want to be able to, well, it was obviously all my hard work. It's, completely me. But I think a lot of people are reluctant to admit that the system may have helped them, or the system, not that it helped them, but it definitely didn't help some other people. And in fact, penalized some other people. I
think that last point is, I personally never thought of it in those terms, and I think it's very clarifying. And I think it actually really, you can apply that same kind of thinking all the way down, like every layer of the system, right? Even if it's a $2 raise at your part-time job, like if you look at the merits or like the fairness of, the system that you're in, like it really doesn't, it's human. I think it's a really human response.
I think people think that the pie is fixed. I think sometimes people don't realize that we can all benefit.
Yeah.
people really have it like, if someone else gains, I loses. You know, there's the quote that goes around that says, if you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression, feels like something's being taken away from you, instead of thinking, maybe I should never have had this in the first place. And it's not like we want to bring people down. We just want to lift everybody up so that everybody is treated with dignity and fairness, and everybody's given the benefit of the doubt. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, majority men are given opportunities based on their potential. Not based on what they've done, where everyone else has to prove themselves over and over and over before they get that same kind of shot. And it's not that we don't want the majority men to get that shot. We just want everybody to get that shot. We want it to, you know, we want to spread the opportunities, spread the wealth.
What are some tangible ways that you think leaders can make the workplace more equitable and fair?
Data. I'm always surprised how little companies use data. So for example, do your performance evaluations show consistently higher ratings for white men than for women or people of color or Black people or other relevant groups? Do women's ratings fall after they have children? Do employees' ratings fall after they take parental leave or adopt flexible work arrangements? Do the same performance ratings result in different promotion or compensation or bonus rates for different groups? If you don't know the answers to those questions, well, why not? You should know the answer to those questions. And is it because you're afraid to go looking because you know what you're going to find? Because if that's the case, that's super problematic. And if not, you might go and find that you don't have a numbers issue. And that would be a huge selling point when it comes to people of color or women. If you were to say, like, women at our firm earn the same as men when their performance is equal, you would have women applying to your firm in droves because people want to go to a place that is seen as fair. And you also can't fix a problem if you don't know how bad the problem is. So, and there's research that shows if you put things publicly, like if different groups have to post the difference in bonuses between their white and Black employees, all of a sudden those differences go away because people are like, oh shoot, maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe I evaluated someone or I didn't give them what they were due, or I gave someone too much. So when a spotlight is shone, people tend to actually be more rigorous and more fair. And so I think that, you know, openness of data and numbers, at least internally, it's probably going to leak though, because, you know, the way the world works. But the fact that you're even willing to confront those numbers, again, speaks volumes. So when my piece came out, it came out 2 days before interview week on Bay Street. And there were two sort of buckets of responses. There were the firms who were like, oh, that was that firm's problem. That's not us. That was just them. And the firms that said, this is a systemic problem. This could have easily been our firm that this piece was written about. Here's what we're doing. All the Black students went to the latter. None of them went to the former. And a lot of those students were on the dean's list. And, you know, talent in Toronto, you know, it's soon going to be 50-50 minorities and white people. You know, half the talent is women, half the talent is going to be people of color. And if you are not getting on board, if this is a talent issue, you're going to miss out on talented people. You are going to fall behind in the knowledge-based economy if you don't have the best people. And if you have, sorry to be frank, if you have all white dudes, you don't have the best people. It's just actually physically impossible. Some of the best people are white dudes. Don't get me wrong. You can't all be white dudes. It's just not.
Basically answered my final question, which was centered around like how to incentivize or motivate leaders to do this. Because I think, you know, like you said, there are clearly outlined approaches and steps that a leadership team can take. But how do you incentivize them? And I think you've already kind of touched on it. But do you have anything to add to that? Like, how do you motivate, you know, decision makers to make better decisions where equality is concerned?
I mean, I would hope that they would realize both it's just the right thing to do, but it's the best thing to do for your company.
Exactly.
Like, don't you want your company? Don't you want the best people? Like,
right.
Don't you want the best people? Yeah. I mean, so many times I think that the business case. People ask people to make the business case for diversity. Whereas the research shows that the more diversity you have, the better you perform, the more innovation you have, the better your company. So for companies who are not diverse, they should be the ones justifying why they're not diverse. Like, the burden should be flipped. You should be showing me why exclusion is good for your business, not asking me to prove why inclusion is good. And a lot of times they want to know that the performance will be better. Why does it have to be better? Why is the same level of performance not adequate to do the right thing? But for me, I think, the companies that are really ahead of the game on D&I, they're the ones that are coming up with better products, coming up with more innovative ideas and solutions, and they're just going to corner the market and take you over. So
get
with the program, get the best people. For me, this is just talent. The best people come in a range of colors. And if yours don't, then I don't think you have the best people.
Yeah, so bluntly put, and I appreciate it. And I think it's a perfect place to end the discussion. It's I could talk to you again for a lot more than the last 20 minutes. But thank you so much for joining. And again, if you have any sort of community announcements, anything you want to share with the TechTO community, now's the time. Otherwise, I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, I would suggest people, if you're not familiar with racism, so I think you should be, but if you're not, a really great book to read about the Canadian experience is The Skin We're In by Desmond Cole. Also, a good intro book is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijuoma Oluo. And also Robin Maynard's Policing Black Lives gives a good overview of the history of policing in Canada for those who are really interested in the defunding the police argument, something to look at.
Thank you so much, Hadiya.
Thanks.